There's a moment that almost nobody notices. It doesn't feel dramatic. It doesn't feel dangerous. It usually feels like progress. You get a raise, maybe a promotion, maybe a new opportunity. Suddenly, life feels a little more comfortable. You upgrade your apartment. You stop checking prices as often. You allow yourself small conveniences that used to feel like luxuries. Nothing extreme, nothing irresponsible, just small improvements that feel earned. And that's exactly why lifestyle inflation is so powerful, because it rarely feels like a mistake. It feels like growth. At first, the changes are subtle. You start ordering food more often instead of cooking. You upgrade your phone a little earlier than necessary. You choose convenience over effort more frequently. Each decision feels harmless on its own, but lifestyle inflation doesn't happen in one big decision. It happens in dozens of small ones, and each small decision slowly increases the cost of maintaining your life. Most people assume financial progress is about increasing income, but income alone doesn't change your financial future. The gap between income and lifestyle is what changes your future. That gap is where freedom is built or lost. Imagine your income increases by 20%. That sounds significant, but if your lifestyle also expands by 20%, nothing actually changes. Your comfort increases, but your flexibility stays the same. You feel better, but you are not more free. Lifestyle inflation quietly converts financial progress into temporary comfort, and comfort has a way of becoming permanent. A slightly nicer apartment becomes the new normal. The occasional restaurant becomes routine. Convenience becomes expected. After a while, going backwards starts to feel impossible. Not because it actually is, but because psychologically humans adapt very quickly. What once felt like a luxury now feels like a basic standard, and anything below that standard feels like loss. Even if your life was perfectly fine before, this is one of the least discussed risks in personal finance, because nothing feels wrong while it's happening. No alarms go off. No warning signs appear. Your life just slowly becomes more expensive to maintain. And once your fixed expenses increase, your margin for flexibility shrinks. More income becomes necessary just to maintain the same lifestyle, which means every future decision becomes more dependent on maintaining that income. More dependency means less freedom. Most people think financial stress comes from not earning enough, but often it comes from committing to a lifestyle that requires continuous performance. When your life becomes expensive, your job becomes more important than you realize. Not because you love the job, because losing the job would disrupt everything. Higher expenses create invisible pressure. Pressure changes decision-making. You become less willing to take risks, less willing to change careers, less willing to take time off, less willing to invest in uncertain opportunities. Lifestyle inflation doesn't just affect your bank account, it affects your options. And options are one of the most valuable forms of wealth. People often imagine financial freedom as a large number in an investment account, but in reality, financial freedom often starts as flexibility. The ability to say no, the ability to wait, the ability to change direction. Every permanent lifestyle upgrade reduces flexibility slightly, and flexibility compounds over time, just like money. Consider two people whose income increases steadily over 10 years. Both work hard, both receive promotions, both improve their earning potential, but one of them upgrades their lifestyle every time their income increases. The other allows only small lifestyle changes, keeping most of the increase invested. 10 years later, their daily lives may look similar, but their financial positions are completely different. One has built assets, the other has built obligations. Obligations feel normal while you have them, but they become very visible when income changes. Lifestyle inflation often hides inside reasonable decisions, moving closer to work to save time, buying more reliable transportation, paying for services that reduce stress. Individually, many of these choices make sense. The problem appears when every improvement becomes permanent. Temporary upgrades rarely stay temporary. Humans quickly adapt to higher standards, and adaptation changes expectations. What once felt like an improvement now feels necessary, and anything necessary must be maintained. Maintenance requires income, which means your lifestyle begins dictating your financial decisions, instead of the other way around. One of the biggest misunderstandings about wealth is the belief that higher income automatically solves financial problems. Higher income increases potential, but it doesn't guarantee progress. Without intentional boundaries, higher income often creates higher expenses, which creates the illusion of progress without actual improvement in financial stability. Lifestyle inflation can also hide behind productivity. People often justify higher spending by linking it to efficiency, faster transportation, better technology, more convenience. Some of these upgrades genuinely improve life, but many simply increase expectations. Once expectations increase, satisfaction becomes harder to maintain. The baseline moves, and when the baseline moves, maintaining the same level of satisfaction requires more resources, which increases financial pressure. The dangerous part is that lifestyle inflation rarely feels irresponsible. It often feels deserved. You worked harder, you improved your skills, you increased your income. Of course, life should improve, and it should. But improvement and expansion are not the same thing. Improvement increases quality of life without permanently increasing financial pressure. Expansion increases financial pressure without necessarily increasing long-term satisfaction. That distinction is subtle, but extremely important. Wealth is often built quietly in the space between income growth and lifestyle growth. If income grows faster than lifestyle, that gap becomes investment capacity. Investment capacity becomes future flexibility. Future flexibility becomes freedom. But if lifestyle grows at the same speed as income, the gap never appears, which means investment capacity never meaningfully increases. Many people experience significant income growth over their lifetime, but very little increase in long-term wealth, not because they failed, because their lifestyle absorbed the progress. Lifestyle inflation doesn't always look dramatic. It can look like slightly better furniture, more frequent travel, higher subscription costs, convenient services that save small amounts of time. Individually, these decisions rarely feel significant. Collectively, they redefine the cost of maintaining your life. And once that cost increases, reducing it becomes psychologically uncomfortable, which creates inertia. Inertia keeps people in financial patterns longer than they intended. Financial progress rarely requires extreme sacrifice, but it often requires awareness. Awareness of which upgrades genuinely improve life, and which upgrades simply increase expectations. Not every lifestyle improvement is a mistake, but not every improvement creates lasting value. Some improvements only increase the cost of staying comfortable. Long-term wealth often depends less on how much income increases, and more on how much lifestyle expansion is controlled. Because every dollar not absorbed by lifestyle becomes a dollar that can work independently of your time. And money that works independently of your time gradually reduces the amount of time you must work for money. Lifestyle inflation is silent because it doesn't create immediate problems. It creates delayed limitations. And delayed limitations are harder to notice. But once you start paying attention, the pattern becomes clear. Financial progress isn't just about earning more. It's about maintaining enough distance between income and lifestyle. That distance is where optionality lives. That distance is where investments grow. That distance is where flexibility comes from. Lifestyle inflation doesn't look dangerous, but over time, it quietly reduces the speed at which freedom becomes possible. And the earlier you become aware of it, the easier it becomes to control. Because wealth rarely comes from dramatic financial decisions. It usually comes from small decisions repeated consistently before they quietly become permanent expectations.